All right, Wolfpack Nation, we are now down to the final stretch, part 3. Thank you so much again for joining in. And if you haven't checked out parts 1 and 2, make sure to go check those out for sure. Decide what you see, our other predictions for the first 8 games, and also to get a little bit of insight in terms of why we think those. Because if you don't really know, if you don't know already, that is important because there's a $100 Red and White Shop gift card on the line for this. And for those who don't know already, make sure to check out in the description below the rules for the giveaway. And yeah, best of luck. And again, I think it's going to be a great season. I think that, at the end of the day, these are just predictions. Obviously, we don't know what injuries are going to happen. We don't know. It's going to be an exciting season. And to be less than, at this point now, less than 2 weeks away is super exciting to say the least. So jumping right in here to FSU, a big game at FSU. State is actually an underdog, a slight underdog. Florida State's put us a 57.6% chance to win. So it was close. So, Macon, I'll hand over to you to see what you think in terms of FSU.
We're kind of just going over this game. I know it's Mike Norvell's. I think it's his third year. If I'm not mistaken, is it fourth year or third year? Do you know?
Third year.
I think it's his third year. Okay, so the biggest storyline to me is Florida State bringing in Mackenzie Milton as their quarterback. When that guy's healthy, kind of like De'Aaron King, he is a problem. And I know they've got another quarterback named Jordan Travis on their team, but to me, it's going to be Mackenzie Milton's team, in my opinion. They've got, everybody knows that Corey Durden transferred to State. If you don't know who Corey Durden is, he was a big-time Florida State defensive end, I think defensive tackle. He was basically defensive lineman.
Defensive tackle.
And defensive tackle. And he's basically going to end up, that makes sense, because he's going to be basically replacing Aleem McNeil in his spot. Now, I say that with in that position because you've got C.J. Clark and some great players here at the defensive tackle position as well. But he's going to be a major addition for us from Florida State. So Florida State doesn't have him this season. They've got their top 3 linebackers returning. Again, I mentioned it before, linebackers are going to strengthen this team. I'm going to be, they are, I will say the last season, they were really bad in defense. They were last in sacks. They were close to last in total defense. They allowed 36 points per game. A lot of it had to do with the fact they could have forced enough third down stops. But I think it's going to be – I think this game is going to be pretty meaningful for NC State going into it. I think if we have lost the Miami game, and let's say, hypothetically speaking, they lose the Louisville game. I don't think they're going to lose the Louisville game. But let's say they do. I think either way, I think this Florida State game, State's going to go to Tallahassee like they did a couple years ago with Bradley Chubb, and I think they're going to go want to handle, take care of business. Again, you got Cyrus Fagan, the defensive back from Florida State, also came to NC State. I think this is going to be a game we see State win. I think they do get the win here. But I think, man, it makes me nervous thinking about playing against Mackenzie Milton because when you watch that guy play, he is tough. So I did notice all this. Kind of another fun fact. They were basically watch out for how Florida State goes into the halftime. They were great offensively in the second quarter. They scored 111 points to opponents' 54 points in the second quarter. So that's kind of an interesting thing to watch out for is when we get in the second quarter of that game, how do they function? I think this is going to be a Mike Norvell's make or break kind of season for him because he's kind of shown some flashes, but not really done, I think, too great. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be like a season that for Florida State fans who've been in the mountaintop, and this is year 3, I think they're going to kind of be done if he's not doing. I don't know what his record. I don't know what their schedule looks like going into this game. But I think Florida State's offensive line is going to need to step up. Their wide receivers are going to need to step up in particular. They need to get some good pass rush onto their quarterback. I do think State gets the win here. I think it's going to be a very again, it's with a lot of heart. State's going to play and get this win.
I mean, for me, really, I was actually really surprised looking at the FBI. I think this was actually the biggest surprise from the FBI in terms of how much FSU was favored. I figured maybe worst comes worst, it was probably like a 50-50 game, but maybe that we will be favored a little bit. But obviously, ESPN and Vegas, or whatever, is obviously powered a lot by Mackenzie Milton, because I mean there's no doubt by looking at his time at UCF that he was one of the better players in college football. But with the injury that he went through, where I mean he basically just shattered his leg. I mean just shattered it, which was, I mean, terrible to see for sure, and terrible that it had to happen. But um, I just don't know if, because especially since, I mean, if we were playing him earlier in the season, I'd be a little bit more worried. But I just don't know if now playing the ninth game, if he's going to be 100%
Yeah.
healthy.
And he looked
He's
healthy.
going to be dealing.
He
with
looked
some stuff.
healthy in the spring game. If you go watch that Florida State highlights in the spring game, everybody was
Sure.
like, "Holy cow! Look at Milton throw the ball!" And he's
Yeah.
throwing dimes out there. And you got a great point. It's
Yeah.
gonna be game 9. He's gonna play, and his body may be worn out. And I hope nothing happens to him. But it's
No.
and no one would. Yeah, no one does. But it's game 9, and
Yeah.
it was a bad leg injury.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, really, I think this really just comes down to, can the defense just keep the offense at bay? And for me, I look at who's on the field for us. I look at Corey Durden and Cyrus Fagan, and I think for me, I think that you're going to see a very
It's going to be meaningful
to
to them, I think.
For the defense,
correct?
Yes, because
correct.
I mean, Corey and them are like, I'm not about to head back to FSU where I left and lose to them.
Yeah, my
like,
boys. Those are my
happen.
boys on the other side of the field, and I'm not going to go lose to them, kind of thing. So
no way. After leaving, there's no way. So for me, because again, I mean, defensive side, just like you said, defense was terrible for FSU last year, and they only returned 5 starters, which you may say, well, I mean, that's good, or that's bad. I mean, because I mean, they might be replacing with some better guys, which, yeah, I mean, that's true. But again, it's a toss up. So for me, I would say between the unsurety, but also more likely the not so great defense we're going to be facing in FSU, and the unsurety in terms of the healthiness of what Mackenzie Milton will be by that point, I think the State gets the win as well. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be a relatively high score game, give or take, depending on what you define as high scoring.
Well, so, I think you mentioned the defense. I think the DBs are going to really want to eat this game. I think they're going to, the way McMilton likes to throw the ball, I think you're going to see the DBs step up. Yeah. What did I say?
McMilton.
McMilton. Hey, Mackenzie that could Milton. Be his new nickname, McMilton.
McMilton. I love that.
You heard it here first.
McMilton. McMilton.
But no.
I love that.
Mackenzie Milton. It's funny. I think the DBs are going to have a pretty a field day. I think. I'm not a field day, but I think if they're going to really, flash this game is probably a good way to put it. So, but.
Which is crazy to think. I mean, again, for State fans, again, I mean, for years the secondary has been just been the thing that all State fans just cannot wrap their head around. And so, I mean, if for any game, but FSU, the secondary can be looked at as like a reason why we won that game. That's just an amazing thing.
I love this too. You guys got to think about a couple of years ago. Your starters at one point were Chris Ingram and Tayshawn Smith. Okay, they both got injured pretty early on in the season, if not before the season started last year. We didn't really get to see him play much. Yep. And now going into 2021, they may not be the starters because Shaheem Battle
beat him out.
Yeah, Shaheem. Well, we had the guys who they beat him out. So the depth, I feel like you've got. Think about I mentioned Chris Ingram, Tayshawn Smith coming back from injuries, but it sounds like your starters are going to be Shaheem Battle, who I would say is one of your better defensive players, quietly. And what it sounds like, Derek Pitts, the cornerback from Marshall, has been a big-time addition, even somewhat better than what the coaches thought he was going to be. You've got him. You've got Tanner Ingle. You've got Jakeem Harris at safety. You've got Aiden White at cornerback. Yep. So, I mean,
that's what I was about to say.
Tyler Baker Williams. I mean, Joshua Pierre-Louis. You've got some guys that are like really, really good defensive backs that could be starters, I think, on some other teams. And I just to highlight that position right now, you've got like 6 or 7 guys who are like literally you could rotate and you could feel like, okay, in this situation, I need this guy in. and you don't have to feel like, okay, I got
Mm-hmm.
to play this guy because he's just my best player. Period. So,
Yeah,
that just to highlight that. But I think going back to
just from quarterbacks.
the prediction, I think State gets the win against Florida State.
Yep. So now heading to Wake Forest, and I do say two because it is unfortunately at Wake Forest, which I mean is a thorn in stateside going to Wake Forest. But so it actually FPI actually has this is pretty much a toss up. So for this, basically, State is put as a 51% chance. Wake Forest is put as a 49% chance. So making a hand over to you first with Wake Forest.
So, I think fate is going to strike again. I think State loses to Wake Forest until we can finally beat them at Wake Forest. Then I'll get on board. But you got to think also, Wake Forest is going to be playing at Carolina the weekend beforehand, and they're playing back-to-back rivals. Now maybe they're worn out from that game. Maybe I think Sam Hartman is a solid quarterback for them. They get all of their offensive linemen back. Their offensive was solid last season in general, but they need to be better at probably running the ball. And on offense, you could argue they've got two of the, statistically at least, two of the best offensive players in the ACC statistically. Jakari Roberson is maybe him. You could argue him, a healthy Justin Ross for Clemson, and I don't know if you put Zay Flowers and Mecca, but Jakari Roberson was a guy State really recruited, and he ended up picking Wake Forest. And Christian Beal-Smith, people don't know who he is, but he was, a fringe. I think he may have actually been picked first team All ACC at running back for Wake Forest. I could be wrong, but I think he was, or at least he got a lot of votes. And I'm really thinking, unless they're just worn out against Carolina and maybe have some injuries, coming home, State will have, in my prediction, will have just beaten Florida State on the road. Will have just beaten Louisville, in my prediction, at home. I am afraid they could look this game over again, and I just am got a feeling that it's going to be a loss. History says it's a loss at Wake Forest. So, hopefully they prove me wrong. I would love for them to prove me wrong, but I just don't know. I think, another similarly to Florida State, Wake Forest is a really good second quarter scoring team. In 2020, they scored 103 points in the second quarter to Florida State's 48 points. Sorry, not the Florida State. They scored 103 points in the second quarter. First quarter, they scored 48 points. So they over doubled in second quarter scoring what they did in the first quarter. So they seem to basically make adjustments. Basically, they make good adjustments. And I really think Clawson is a great coach, and I want Dave Dorn to get that monkey off his back and beat them at Wake Forest. They did almost that one year where Remeka had that fumble, but I think it's going to be a game potentially where we lose again. So I got it as a loss.
Well, thank you for that perfect segue, because that is actually a big reason why I think that we're going to win this game. I think that dude's going to go off this game. There's no doubt that it's still in his head. I'm sure he still has nightmares about that game. Not necessarily because, again, a lot of State fans will say, what a terrible decision it was to reach for the goal line. It's one of those things that's kind of like in it's like fourth and goal. Like, if you go for it and it works, you're a genius. But if it doesn't work, then you're an idiot. Like, it's same thing. Like, you reach out for it, and hey, if it crosses the goal line, then you're amazing for making that play. But in that circumstance where he just got knocked out right before, and he was such a young player. So I think for this game is when we are truly going to see the fruit of that labor.
Fruit of the loom. We're see the fruit of the loom.
we're going to see if from going through that, he is going to go off this game. And I think I see a big game from him. But yeah, I think that for me, I think we've said multiple times on this channel that Dave Clawson, but we don't know why he is still at Wake Forest. have no idea. How was a Power Five team like not brought him on to? I have no idea. I mean, seriously,
especially
like
one that
it's
may
Wake
be
Forest.
struggling. And he's been
Yeah,
known to build programs back, and he's still there. How is a team? I could probably think of a few teams, but I can't think of one on top of my head right now that's struggling as a Power Five school and has
yeah,
not hired him. You know,
yeah.
why hasn't a school like Tennessee? I mean, he's probably not the same kind of person, but he could build back Tennessee.
Well, because like look who Tennessee hired. They hired a coach who did mediocre at UCF when he took over. When they went, what 11-1 or 12-0,
Right.
whatever. So yeah, again, I just don't understand that. But yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest news though that actually happened over the offseason was so Wake Forest's big running back Kenneth Walker actually announced that he was transferring to Michigan State. And for those who remember last year, Kenneth Walker he was a big time running back for them, and he played well against us, and so that was definitely a big hit for Wake Forest to lose him. But
But again,
for me,
statistically, that Christian Beal Smith guy, it's like doesn't seem like it's gonna be a big of a drop off.
no, not too much. But I just from watching Kenneth Walker, I mean that dude, he's
Oh
he's
yeah.
he's a heck of a running back. So yeah, I mean for me, I would say that really comes down to that really that Tony Gibson, that I think defense needs to keep Sam Hartman and Jakari Robinson as limited as we can. But I think for me that between Emeka playing his heart out, and I mean I see him getting 2 or 3 touchdowns like just going off this game, and between defense doing what they need to do, I think we get a big win at Wake Forest. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So now heading into Syracuse, poor old Syracuse, man. I mean, Dino Babers.
Orange is the new
I'm
fast,
a
man.
huge.
Orange is the new fast.
I know. Man. I am a huge fan of Dino Babers. I mean I mean he is a great guy, and I mean he's a solid coach, but I just don't really see him being there that much longer. I think honestly for me, Syracuse, if they don't make it to, because it's kind of funny. So in 2018 when they won 10 games and then won in the Camping World Bowl against West Virginia, they actually signed him to a contract extension through 2023 and actually made him the 40th highest paid Power 5 coach, which may say 40th, like that's not that high for Syracuse, like
Mm-hmm.
who is all about basketball. That's pretty big for Syracuse. So yeah, I mean, I just don't really know. Like, it's just such a rough, and I just don't really see much positive heading for them. So, I mean, State is put as an 87% chance to win, and I mean, I see it as a win at home. Obviously the biggest thing for them is they get Tommy DeVito back, who has season-ending injury, and he comes back. But I just don't think that's really that much of an upgrade from what they had. But I just think that with them playing so tough against us, I see us coming in, stomping Syracuse, and let's move on to UNC. Simple as that.
Yeah,
So
I think this is I think they're just not in a good spot. I think
no.
Tommy DeVito, he's going to need some help from his offensive line. I don't know if the defensive line's going to do great. I know that Syracuse had basically some defensive backs get drafted. They just don't have a lot going for them. I know they're Taj Harris, their wide receiver, is a really good receiver.
Yep.
I think it's Mikael Jones is their linebacker. He's a pretty good player. I think it's his name, Mikael Jones. Mikael Jones, the linebacker. I think you're going to see a lot of State players in the backfield, defensive players in the backfield against Syracuse. I think it's going to force them to try to get the ball out faster the sides, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like I think it could be ugly. I'm not saying I personally think State's going to run the ball a lot on them this game. I think they're going to run the ball because I think our line is just going to. I think their line is just going to struggle very much so. I think they will the whole season, unless they figure some things out. And because I think State's going to run the ball pretty hard on them. I think you're going to see a lot of some Jonathan Knight, Ricky Person, Jordan Houston, Delbert Mims, who, by the way, I think Delbert Mims is going to have a good, solid role this season on State's team. Everybody's looking for that power back, and while Ricky Person has been the closest thing to that, I think Delbert Mims could be that guy. But that's just a segue. I think this is going to be a no-brainer. State gets this win, especially when it's at home.
Yep.
I think they get the win.
Yep. Heading into it. So now, heading into the last game of the season, and who do we play? Sam Howell is coming to town and playing at NC State. I think that this is really leading up to, again, it just like all these games we talked about between Mississippi State, Mississippi State, Clemson, and UNC. Those are three huge games this season. I just can't remember a season where you look at three games and go, wow, those could be like program changers. For sure. If we win those games. And UNC, again, because there's so much hype this season heading in with UNC, obviously with Sam Howell. And because, there is no doubt, even being a State fan, you can't, as much as we don't like him, that dude is a baller. He's a heck of a quarterback. You just can't deny it. That dude is unreal. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup, but an exciting one, to say the least. So, Macon, I'll hand over to you first to give your final prediction, man.
I could go on a soapbox about this, and I think I will. No, I'm kidding. I get that Sam Howell's a great quarterback. He is exceptional at the deep ball. He's exceptional in the deep ball. I don't think he's as great in the short to intermediate passing game. But I think he's a great deep ball quarterback. They were great last season. They had a lot of big time pieces, and a lot of those guys got drafted. They're going to be really good. I think their defense, honestly, is what's going to make them really good this season. That's what I think. They got a lot of players coming back. Particularly, their defensive backs are going to be pretty good. They got Storm Duck, which is one of the all-time names. I think he's back. I think he may have been injured. And then Tony Grimes, who is a really good defensive back for them. Their safeties probably not as good as our safeties. They certainly don't hit as hard as our safeties because I think Tanner Engel wants to kill somebody every time he's out in the field. But, I don't understand how Carolina can be ranked preseason top 10. Me personally, maybe you guys can say I'm wrong and think I'm silly for thinking this. I don't know how they can be preseason top 10 when they lose over 4,000 yards of offense. They lost their starting two running backs, and they lose their starting two wide receivers. Diami Brown was, I think, really, really good for Carolina. And what sounds like from the reports you're hearing from the Washington football team, which, I can't wait till they actually get a legit name besides football team. He sounds like he's still doing great for Washington. Like, he's already turning heads. Javonte Williams and Michael Carter both drafted. Williams went to the Broncos. Carter went to the Jets. Name one team to me that would lose 4,000 yards of offense, over 4,000 yards of offense, and still be ranked top 10. Yeah,
Alabama.
they don't lose that much. They lose guys, but they're like, those guys are 5 stars. Growing on trees. I don't know how that happens. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the only way I can think, if they really are going to live up to that, this Coffrey Brown, I can't pronounce his name. Josh Downs. I think Josh Downs is going to be really good, and that one obviously kind of hurts too because he was a guy who was a former, a State legacy that went to Carolina. He could have gone anywhere else. He picked Carolina as a slot receiver. Their line, they got a couple good offensive linemen, particularly they think their tackle is a really good offensive lineman. I think he was first team all ACC, if I'm not mistaken. But when I look at it side by side, even when you look at Devin Leary's first 4 or 5 games he played, however many games he played, and I kind of did something on I saw on Twitter somebody posted. He said, you have player A and player B, and here are the stats. Which one is Sam Howell? And they were basically the same stats, and the other one was Devin Leary. And I think with how we lost last season, and mind you, this game's going to be at home.
Yep.
I think State wins. I think State wins this game. I think it's going to be a good game, but I really think State's going to get this game. Could be wrong, obviously. Yep. I think Carolina's going to be a very good team. But again, to go along with the 4,000 yards of offense they've lost, they've got to make up 4,000 yards of offense somewhere. Whether it's more throwing from Sam Howell, more running from Sam Howell, their running back stepping up and running the ball, the receiver stepping up, tight ends. Someone's got to come. There's going to be a group getting 4,000 yards. And they went 8-4 last season, lost their bowl game, just like State did. State went 8-4, lost their bowl game. Now, granted, they lost to a bigger bowl game matchup against Texas A&M, and we lost to Kentucky. And they went to the Orange Bowl. We went to whatever that was, it the Belk Bowl or something like that. It wasn't the Belk Bowl, something else. So not all 8-4 records are the same. I get that, but I don't think it was that much better. And I just don't get how an 8-4 team who lost their bowl game loses over 4,000 yards of offense with a star quarterback. I get that. How did they become preseason ranked higher than they were the previous season? To me, that is the Carolina branding and the Carolina hype train at full force, full head of steam.
Yeah.
Oh, Carolina shows any flash of potential. You got to put them up there in top 15 somehow. And I just, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be hungry to win this game. State's going to hungry to win this game. Yeah. Personally, I think State wins.
The biggest chip, though, the biggest thing I want to go ahead and mention, though, is I've seen a lot of State fans who have been freaking out almost basically to a sort of how UNC is doing so much with recruiting right now, getting 5 stars, 4 stars left and right, or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, again, it really comes down to, at the end of the day, you look at UNC, look at back even with Butch Davis, going back then. Butch Davis was killing it in recruiting, but again, it's what you do with it. And you may say, well, again, Mac Brown's been there, now for 2 years, and he's done well, but he's had an amazing quarterback in Sam Howell. And so again, I just say again, Doran right now is picking his guys. It's as simple as that. It's not necessarily the most highly recruited guys he's going after. He's picking the guys that he wants, and he feels fits the mold that we're trying to build here. So again, I just plead to you guys who are freaking out with the recruiting, which I understand why, is trust Doran. He's gotten us here. He's gotten us 2 years ago, or whatever however you want to say it. He got us 2 straight 9-win seasons. He had the most ACC wins last year. I mean, we're heading in the right direction.
And people remember this guys. Too. Last season was a COVID season where we basically had no non-conference games except the one non-conference game, which was a historically ranked Liberty team with a guy who's a quarterback who could be, a top 2 round draft pick, maybe top 3. I don't know what he'll be, but he's one of the top quarterback options winning this draft. And they were undefeated when we played them. So that means State played a 12-game season, whatever it was, with basically an all-conference season. And they won.
Or a really good team.
And they won 7 conference games. They won, and they beat an undefeated Liberty team. So last season's 9-win season, in my opinion, was, better. Well, I think they exceed expectations. 8-win season. Well, I'm saying 7-win season. What did I say? 8-win season. 8-win season in conference.
9-win season.
Yeah. So and they did it with a backup quarterback for the most part. So
for most of the season.
So I think they're going in the right direction. To your credit, I was trying to say, Layton.
Yeah. So anyway, I know this is scheduled, but I just had to mention that because I've seen a couple of different times people saying that. So anyway, when it comes to UNC, last year UNC's offense was just ridiculous. I mean, they had 537 yards of total offense per game, 42 points per game. And I mean, for me, it just really comes down to that. And I know making you say, well, how is, UNC ranked so high? Well, at the end of the day, unfortunately, slash fortunately with football, a great quarterback can do a lot of things for you, and a star quarterback can carry a team for you. And so because at the end of the day, I mean, if you have a quarterback who can throw within an inch accuracy, then it doesn't matter, how good your receivers are. Because at the end of the day, you don't. Sam Howell doesn't need receivers that have 5 yards of separation. Just give me 2 yards separation, and I'll just dime it right to you right there. And so I do understand it to an extent. Now, do I think that there's a lot of UNC hype train push behind it? Because I also look back at last season, I go, you had 2 pretty bad losses against Florida State and Virginia. Now, I know you may say pretty bad. I mean, Virginia wasn't a bad loss, but for UNC, it was a bad loss. Like, they shouldn't have lost that game, and they should not have lost to FSU. So I just, for me, I look at Sam Howell and I see I'm still waiting for that big win, with Sam Howell. So that's why I'm not 100%. Talent-wise, there's no doubt how good that guy is, but just I don't necessarily see him as that clutch quarterback yet. But I mean, who knows with this season. So anyway, so talking about for this game, I really have this as this is another toss-up for me because again, I it's tough to be non-biased, because logically I see this as a loss, but for me, I just see us at home. So you know what? No, I gotta stick logically. I'm gonna logically stick with a loss and stay disciplined here. I'm gonna put it as a loss, but a tough one because again, obviously, I hate even mentioning the thought of losing to UNC.
Let's see.
Because again, I truly think I think we need to win this game. Again, I truly think we need to win this game to end this season and put that stamp on for the postseason.
Right.
Because no matter what happens in the postseason, if you can put that we beat UNC with Sam Howell and send Sam Howell off, to the NFL with a loss against us, I mean that's so big.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule. Just like UNC has done the previous seasons, they're going to be playing like a nobody. They're playing Wofford going into this game, so they intentionally schedule that so they can get set up against us. But then again, we're playing Syracuse, and I'm not saying I do think we're going to win. I think it'll be pretty easy, but that's going to be a pretty, somewhat. I think this is a particularly bad Syracuse team. I think going into the season, State could really do the same thing. They could try to get a lead on Syracuse and rest some of their guys going into that game if they can help it. I just, I know Carolina brought in Ty Chandler, the running back from Tennessee. And I'm more confident they can replace the receivers. Like I mentioned, Cocker Brown and Josh Downs. I just don't know how they're going to really replace Javonte Williams and Michael Carter. I get Ty Chandler. I get it, but that's 4,000 yards of offense. And I'm going to be, I know you mentioned Sam Howell has not had a big win, in your opinion, and I can get on board that, but he's going to have some chances. He's going to have 2 games. Well, I say that 2 games in a row, but he's going to have it's a bye week in the middle, but he's going to have a chance at home against, Miami, at home against Miami. That'll be probably decide who wins the Coastal. If it's with the healthy Derek King, it's going to be a battle of quarterbacks. And then he's got a bye week, and then Carolina goes to South Bend and plays Notre Dame. So he's going to prove himself. He has a chance, a window right there. Granted, he's got a bye week, but he's got a window right there to prove, I'm not just a great thrower of the ball and whatever. And, maybe it's with the right coaching, I can be even greater. But again, we all think Sam Howell's a great quarterback. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
I just think there's a little bit of an overhype there a little bit. And I think with UNC as a team, not Sam Howell, and I think they get the win. I think State gets the win.
Yeah. Well, and definitely don't overlook that first game at Virginia Tech. That's a big game for Carolina.
It is.
That's a huge game at Carolina. So yeah, he definitely has opportunity this year. But yeah, so just to kind of summarize, so we actually both, Macon and I, have State going 9-3. And I think that for me, that is the bar. You have to get to at least 9 wins to give us at least a chance to go into the bowl game, getting our first 10-win season since Phillip Rivers, and only our second 10-win season ever at State. So I think that is the bar with this team, even though the schedule is it's a tough schedule this year, but with this team and with how things are stacked, you have to set it there. And I think for me, if a 9-3 season regular season, huge hats off to Doran. And I would even say if he only wins 8 games regular season, he needs that bowl win. I think you have to find 9 wins, whether it is regular season only or regular season and postseason. If you can get 9 wins with the schedule, overall you gotta be happy with it. You know, you're not thrilled, but if you can get 10 wins, thrilled. State fans have to be thrilled. Simple as that. So.
Yeah.
So once again, make sure if you haven't already, please make sure again to hit that subscribe button and really help support us in the channel. Please like this video, check out all of our other in-state content, and follow us at Tuffy Talk Now. Because remember, again, there's $100 Red and White Shop giveaway gift card here, and the rules are in the description below.
Yeah, no, and the highlight. So my losses, I was winning all games except the losses I have are Clemson, Miami, and Wake Forest. Laying what your losses are what again?
So Clemson, Boston College, and North Carolina.
Okay. So make sure that was kind of like a good summary of what we lost. So both 9-3, but those are the differences. The main differences are I think we lose against Miami and Wake Forest. Layton thinks we lose against Boston College and Carolina. So
thank you all so much again for tuning in, and please make sure again to not miss out on checking all the rules down in the description below to miss out on this amazing fun opportunity for a giveaway. And thank you all so much again for tuning again, and so excited for an awesome 2021 football
I cannot
season.
wait.
So ready, so jazzed. Cannot wait to see you all there back in a packed Carter Finley Stadium. So as always, stay safe, y'all. We'll see you in Carter Finley. As always, go Pack, y'all.
Pack.